What you just heard is the unison section from my song Surface Tension. I posted that video a couple months ago of me doing a live playthrough of this section, and I thought this would be a good part to look at to kind of talk about the picking choices that I make when I'm doing a complex line like this, what kind of picking techniques I'm using and how I'm combining them, because it's not just like strict alternate picking in this case. These lines are pretty involved. These are just my picking choices I'm making, and this is because of how I play and the sorts of techniques that I favor and the things that I'm good at. And so I'm trying to lean into what I'm good at, but also make something that sounds the way that I want it to sound. In this particular case, I wanted to be picking most of the notes. Now, these lines are really difficult, and alternate picking it wasn't really going to be an option for me. There's probably some players out there that can do it. So when working through this, I'm trying to pick as many notes as possible by using some different techniques, and then kind of sneakily throwing in some hammer-ons and pull-offs here and there. The beginning of this section looks like this. What I'm doing here, down, up, slide, and the slide here is for the effect of the slide. It's for the sound of the slide. It's not a technical thing. I could alternate pick through that if I wanted. So I'm doing that slide as an effect. And then here, 2 downstrokes in a row. This is basically just an arpeggio. G sharp minor 9 arpeggio. And usually when I'm doing arpeggios, I'm going to be doing some economy picking or sweeping. It just makes sense to kind of push the pick through the string. You could do up, down, right? And that actually wouldn't be that hard to perform in this particular case, but it's just easier and smoother for me to economy pick through that. And then this chromatic line, I'm alternate picking all of that. And really anytime there's more than one note on a string in this part, except for a few specific spots, I'm going to be alternate picking. Then we have another slide into another sweep. Once again, 1 note per string alternate picking for me is very difficult. You know, I'm not Steve Morse. I can't really do it that fast. It's something I practice a lot. But for me, it's just going to be easier and more consistent to sweep through that. Then it goes to this. And this I am pure alternate picking. There's just no other way for me to be able to play these notes. You could maybe do some hybrid picking. This is one of those intervallic descending licks that really needs to be alternate picked. And then at the very end, going into the next measure, I have a hammer-on. And there's a reason for this. This is in an odd time signature, and there's, odd numbers of notes throughout each bar. So that hammer-on in this particular case, that note that I'm hammering onto is the downbeat of the next measure. And I want to start that on a downstroke. But the way the picking works in this whole part, I actually would be starting on an upstroke if I alternate picked through that. So I put that hammer on in there so I can flip the picking around. So here's the next 2 measures of this part. So here I'm doing a lot more legato. And the reason being, these are arpeggio shapes that I'm very comfortable with, and usually when I play these, I'm going to do some hammer-ons and pull-offs. Once again, a slide for the effect of the slide. And then I'm alternate picking through that whole last part. And this is just a pattern that works really well for me. And it's the reason I chose to alternate pick it. You might find it's easier to do some hammer-ons and pull-offs here and there. For me, this part though, that would be really hard to alternate pick. So I'm making the choice to do some hammer-ons, pull-offs, slide. I could alternate pick through it. So here's the whole first half of this unison section. The second half of this unison has almost the exact same picking pattern, it just is over a different chord. So the first half is really G sharp Dorian, and then the second half is E melodic minor for the most part. But that picking pattern is exactly the same as the beginning, just with some different notes. So there's the first half of this second section. Just a little bit trickier fingerings for the left hand. And then it does the same sort of arpeggio idea. Once again, hammer-ons and pull-offs during the sweeping parts, and then picking during the more scale-based passages. There is one last run at the very end of this unison that's a 16th note triplet run. Classic Paul Gilbert style pattern, and I'm alternate picking this. Here's this entire unison section played slowly, and I'll put the picking pattern on the screen. So ultimately, when I'm choosing how to pick a particular section, the most important thing is how it sounds. Sometimes it might mean that I have to do something more difficult, if I want the sound of pure alternate picking or the sound of legato hybrid picking, whatever it happens to be. And it might take a little bit more work, but the sound overall is more important. With a section like this that's really difficult overall, like I wanted that sound of more picking, but also I wanted it to be something that I could play with some sort of repeatability. And this is all just based on what works for me personally as a player, and also what I think is going to sound the best. And sometimes passages are so difficult, which isn't necessarily the case with this one, but sometimes you might end up with a passage that's so difficult that you basically have to do whatever technique you can to get it to sound clean. So if there's a part where I have to sweep or use tapping instead of picking it because I need to be able to play it cleanly, then I'll do that because the sound of the cleanliness is more important overall than the exact sort of picking pattern. These are all musical decisions. It shouldn't be based on technique. Technique is purely secondary to the actual sound of the music. So do whatever you need to do to get it to sound the way that you want it to sound. Now, if you want tabs for this, they are available on my official store. The links to all of that is in this video's description. This is part of the Class of 2021 album, and the tabs for all of that are available on my website. You can pick this up and you can try out some of this song for yourself. I'd be curious to see how some of you might pick this particular pattern. Also, if you're a keyboard player, you can give this a shot too, because this is a unison between guitar and keyboard. So there's an example of how I might choose to pick a difficult section of music. If you enjoyed this lesson, subscribe, hit the bell notification, like, comment, share, all of that, and I'll see you for the next video. Till then, stay proggy.